mob vote. We all know what it is. Mojang gives us 3 options, and whichever mob gets the most votes wins. And what usually happens when a mob vote occurs is that the results are usually pretty close in the end. I mean, the first ever mob vote was almost tied by a 0.1%. There just never was a mob or a biome that controlled the vote. That is, until the Sniffer happened. You see, when the winner of the 2022 mob vote was announced, there was something extremely important said by one of the announcers.
This winning mob actually got over half of the total votes.
This made me very curious, and so I spent hours researching to find the exact percentages, until I found the exact figures from a post by a Mojang employee. And you wanna know the percentage of votes the Sniffer got? 55.1%. That is the percentage of all votes the Sniffer got in the mob vote, making the exact number of votes the Sniffer received 1,928,500, nearly 2 million votes in favor of the Sniffer. This is even more votes than the Sniffer's competitors, the Rascal and the Tough Golem combined. This is a massive deal. Not the amount of votes, but the percentage of the votes. Which leaves us with one simple question. How did the Sniffer get so many votes? Well, if you were paying attention before this latest mob vote, you would know that the Sniffer was the community's favorite. Everyone expected the Sniffer to win, which it did. However, why did everyone expect the Sniffer to win? The answer is simple, really. When a biome or mob vote happens every year, the Minecraft community just tends to value 2 things. Number 1, whatever adds the most content to the game in form of stuff like new items, new blocks, tools, weapons, etc. Or, number 2, whatever mob or biome that will change the gameplay the most. Whatever new angle it could possibly add for the player, or just making the basic gameplay more complex. And those of you who have been around a long time would know that this is not new, with it being traced back as far as the first mob vote where the community voted for mob B because it would be the first ever hostile flying mob, and the general thought that it would change the game the most compared to the other mobs. This mob would eventually turn into the Phantom and, in hindsight, it was not the right choice at all. I mean, it barely changed the game at all, with it only succeeding in being extremely annoying. Anyway, one more recent example of the Minecraft community's mindset in action would be the winner of the 2019 biome vote, where the community voted for the mountain biome to be reworked, because at the time, the community believed that reworking the mountains had the most chance of changing the world generation, and maybe, just maybe, adding a cave update. Thankfully, this time, it worked out positively, with us getting some beautiful looking mountains. I mean, just look at them. New world generation, and of course, the cave update. So at this point, you may be asking me, maccee, what does all of this have to do with the record-breaking dominance of the Sniffer? Well, first off, stop interrupting me. Second off, the Sniffer's success was not caused by the Sniffer itself. No. It was due to its competition that the Sniffer was so successful. Let me explain. At the time, there were 2 other choices besides the Sniffer to vote for, the Rascal and the Tough Golem. And to make it short, the Rascal was a mob that would spawn on the ground and would play a game of hide and seek with the player. If you win 3 times and find the mob, it would give you some sort of loot. But here's where the problems would come in. In Mojang's official video showing the Rascal, it showed the Rascal dropping an enchanted iron pickaxe as loot. So based on speculation at the time, the other loot was probably also in the same tier, which isn't really that good to be honest, which is already off to a bad start. But there's something even more important. So tell me, based on that description of the Rascal I told you, how much do you think it would impact or change the game? Not much, right? So that makes one thing on the checklist already crossed off, which leads me to another question. Would the Rascal add any items or blocks? You guessed it, no it would not. And like I said earlier, that's another thing off of the checklist. And so, with the Rascal not meeting either requirement, there was just almost no interest in it. However, what I can say for the Rascal is that the hide and seek mechanic at least does seem a little bit interesting. It would have maybe given some fun gameplay, at least for a little while, which I cannot say for our next mob, the Tough Golem. The Tough Golem was a near useless mob that would act as a movable item frame. Okay, fine. It was a mob that would essentially act as a statue until it randomly started walking around looking for an item to pick up, and then return to its original position once it got that item. So like I said, a moving item frame. Oh, did I also mention the fact that it happens to look suspiciously like one of last year's failed mobs? And another thing, the Tough Golem also didn't add any new items or blocks, and based on that description, it wouldn't have changed the gameplay at all. Would you be surprised to find out it got the least amount of votes? So if the competition not meeting either of the Minecraft community's requirements, they basically had no chance of winning, especially when the Sniffer actually checked both requirements. The gameplay one being checked with the player actually having to go out of their way to get a Sniffer egg and then bring an entire species back from extinction. The Sniffer also checked the second requirement with it being able to sniff out 7 new plants which could be used for a variety of reasons. Not to mention the potential lore behind the Sniffer possibly already being there. This was all while its competition was simply not meeting either requirement. So the moment all 3 mobs were laid out in front of the Minecraft community, the vote was already decided, and with a lack of any real competition to the Sniffer, it made it inevitable that the Sniffer would dominate this mob vote like no other. And it wasn't exactly a surprise to the Minecraft community when the Sniffer won the vote. Pretty much everyone was predicting before the mob vote that the Sniffer would win. And if you want to see one of these predictions, you can click on this video here where I actually correctly predicted that the Sniffer would win. And if you're watching this far in the video, I assumed you liked the video, right? Oh, and please don't tell me that you're not subscribed, that'd be even worse.